She's hot and has quite a mean streak. Don't worry though, we've weaved a web of trouble for this one and her extended spider family. We'll put them out of their misery quick and try not to leave them hanging. Beth'tilac is a two-phase fight. Phase 1 is about ad control, while Phase 2 is a DPS burn. Beth'tilac herself has around 50 million HP and she'll spawn multiple ads throughout the fight. Cinderweb spinners, drones, and spiderlings. You'll want to bring 2 tanks, 5 to 6 healers, and a balanced mix of DPS. Let's look at the abilities. We'll start with Beth and then cover her ads. For starters, she'll constantly take fire damage to all players on the same level as her with her Ember Flare ability. Players who engage her above her web will need to watch for Meteor Burn, an attack that allows Beth to call down mild damaging meteors around her web. These meteors will also burn holes in the webbing. At all times, Beth is capable of consuming spiderling ads that come too close to her. This will heal her for around 10% of her maximum HP. Whenever Beth runs out of fire energy, she will set herself ablaze, dealing lethal damage to anybody still above the web. In Phase 2, Beth will retain her Ember Flare and Consume abilities. She will also gain the Widow's Kiss, a debuff placed on her main aggro target that slowly decreases the healing they take. It will also cause the target to deal fire damage to allies around them. As Phase 2 goes on, Beth will begin to deal more and more damage with her stacking Frenzy buff. Before getting to this point, however, the raid will need to handle multiple ads in Phase 1. Each ad has only 1 or 2 abilities. Cinderweb spiderlings will shoot burning acid at random players. This deals mild fire damage. Cinderweb drones can consume spiderlings, increasing their HP, damage, and movement speed by 20%. They also have a frontal cone ability that deals moderate fire damage to all players in front of them. Cinderweb spiderlings may leap onto a random player and inject them with seeping venom, dealing mild ticking fire damage. Let's see how this all comes together. Begin the fight by splitting your raid properly. Ads spawn from 3 corners of the room and must be handled quickly. We refer to these corners as lanes. Place 1 DPS in each lane and charge this player with the task of AoEing down all spiderlings coming from their side. The tank will pick up the drones when they spawn while the rest of the raid groups up in the center of the room. The second tank, 1 to 2 healers, and a handful of DPS, 5 or 6, will be in charge of going up top and fighting Beth'tilac head-on above her web. This can only be accomplished, however, by first killing spinners. At the start of the encounter, multiple Cinderweb spinners will spawn and hang from the web above. These will repeatedly pelt the raid with their Burning Acid ability, and can only be attacked by ranged DPS until they reach the ground. Taunting them will cause them to come down to the ground, so all players able to do so should. Once a spinner dies, 1 player may interact with its web to climb up top. This should always be the tank first, since Beth would immediately engage whoever comes up. The second player up should be the healer to keep the tank alive. After this, the assigned DPSers will ride their webs to the top. Players above the web will need to watch for meteors and pay attention to the boss's fire energy. When it reaches 0, she will begin to cast Smoldering Devastation. All players must leave the web before this cast finishes or they will risk being killed. Below the web, players must focus simply on keeping the ads under control. The DPS priority is spinners, spiderlings, then drones. It is a good idea to use raid cooldowns anytime the top team comes down, as the raid damage will go up quite a bit. Once Beth'tilac has used Smoldering Devastation 3 times, she will climb down and Phase 2 will begin. It is important to make sure all spiderlings are dead before this occurs, or Beth may be able to heal, negating any damage the raid did to her in Phase 1. Phase 2 is merely a DPS burn. Tanks will need to taunt off of each other, and make sure not to stand too close due to her Widow's Kiss ability, and the raid will need to heal through the increasing Ember Flare damage. The challenge is to kill the boss before this damage becomes too high to handle. Don't be afraid to use raid and healing cooldowns to make the damage more manageable in this phase. Depending on your DPS, this can be a very difficult part of the fight. This fight is a classic example of worrying about your job before everybody else's. It may seem pointless to DPS spinners before drones, and it may look tempting to just AoE spiderlings and not worry about spinners, but there is a reason to all of the madness, and adhering to your assignment can make this a much smoother fight. If you enjoyed this guide or found it helpful, Remember to bookmark us at LearntoRaid.com, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Justin TV and Twitter. As always, we hope this guide was helpful, and we'll see you at the next Floss.
I wasn't feeling so good. I just didn't feel like playing anymore. So I went home, and I got all comfy and cozy and all scrunched up in front of my phonograph. And I sat there and I closed my eyes and listened to all the sweet music.